Thank you. I would extend a heartfelt thanks first of all to Jawad sir and the entire management of Unique Institute for having me here and for honoring me. And a big thank you to all of you for showing up. I can very much relate to the fact that an aspirant's time is quite precious. So to take out a few bits from that to listen to a person who's going to tell about their journey is really, it means a lot to me. Thank you. So as sir has already given a brief introduction, I would straight away talk about how my UPSC journey began, and I would be covering both the academic and the non-academic part, that how the behavioral changes and the kind of mindset and attitude that you require and that can help you get through the exam. Back in 2021, I enrolled for my foundation course when I had decided to appear for the exam. And simultaneously, I used to prepare my notes along with the lectures. So a key takeaway here is that these notes will form the bedrock or the main foundation of your mains answers. So instead of struggling for material ki GS1, where will I study GS1 from, or where will I study ethics from, so it is advisable that you prepare your own handwritten notes along with the lectures that you get here. Besides this, I would say that never treat current affairs as a distinct subject. The preparation, like sir mentioned, that it is a horizontal domain that cuts across all the subjects. So you have to prepare it in a way that it gets integrated with your static portion. So for instance, with regards to current affairs, my strategy was always that I have been regular with the newspaper. So choose any newspaper, maybe Indian Express or The Hindu. These are the most preferred ones by the aspirants. And stick religiously to it, read it every day. And note down, what I used to do is that underline the important stuff in the editorials and the economy page, the international relations news page, and how they can help you. I'd also like to tell about that. For instance, I still remember the kind of editorials that helped me with my mains answers. So there's this column by Ashok Gulati sir. So he is an agroeconomist, and he used to give very unique points with respect to maybe the MSP issue or the food processing industry and stuff. And I used to jot down those unique points and add to my GS3 notes. Then besides this, this is how you can pick up unique points from your editorials. Or whenever, let us say that a new issue has come up, there are mass defections. So that usually happens around assembly elections and all that. Defection again becomes a hot topic. And you get a lot of new committee recommendations and all in the editorials. So you can always add that to your notes. Because of course, this is a relative competition, as we all know. And suppose there are 5 people in the mains, they are writing an answer to defection. All of them will be remembering the articles, the constitutional amendments. So what X factor are you bringing to the table? Why do you deserve to be selected for the interview? You have to give something unique. There comes the importance of committee recommendations and all. So this is how you can enlist the unique points from your editorials. Besides this, another importance is in the economy page, for instance. Like we can see in prelims, a lot of questions come from the terminologies in the economy front that were there in news. So this is how you pick up. And in international relations, especially given in the past 2 to 3 years, you must be observing in prelims that there are a lot of questions that there's the name of the place and the reason why is it famous for. Syria, Golan Heights, so you have to match in that way. So what I did is I had a notepad where I had written all the important places that used to come, that were a recurring theme in the international relations news, and the reason why they were in news. So you can relate that in 2023 also there were questions that DRC was the answer to a question, Democratic Republic of Congo, related to cobalt mining or something. So it was in news related to that. So when you are noting down the places, you know that this place is occurring again and again, it must be important. There was one, I was expecting the question of Armenia-Azerbaijan border dispute regarding the Nagorno-Karabakh. That was the disputed place between both. So this way you can list down the important places in news. So this was all about current affairs, and besides this, since although you are reading the newspaper, but our memory is very these are fleeting things. We don't tend to remember things for a long period of time. So to keep a hold or a tab over current affairs, you can refer to the monthly compilations or the kind of books like Current Affairs Decoded that was recently unveiled. So what happens is that you are able to revise the current affairs or the news that you referred in the past 1 month or the past 6 months. So this way you can make your own short notes out of these compilations. This is what I did, and I revised those notes multiple times before my prelims. So this is the way you go about current affairs both for prelims and mains, that you keep revising through your notes from monthly compilations and newspapers for prelims, and for mains you keep integrating the unique fodder points to your mains notes, and that would form the crux of your GS answers. Now I would like to go in terms of strategy. I would go in the phase wise for prelims, mains and interview, and subject wise also. So first of all, I cannot stress enough the importance of NCRTs, especially the class 11 and 12th NCRTs. For a lot of us who are not having, who may be from a science background, who last read the humanities subjects long ago and are not very familiar with the concepts, you might refer to NCRTs from class 6th or 8th onwards, but they are too basic, I think, for our understanding. So I referred class 11, 12th NCRTs for subjects like polity. Indian Constitution at Work is an important NCRT. For history, for both ancient and medieval. For modern also, a lot of people refer to Bipin Chandra. So I referred for ancient and medieval, I referred NCRTs. And for geography, so the geography NCRT is something that will help you till your mains. It is a very good book, and you won't have to search for any standard source beyond that. So these are some, and even for society, the Indian society that is a part of GS1, it is advisable to go through the NCRTs once. Having done that, having formed your foundation from the NCRTs, then you can switch over to the standard books. So for instance, we know that for polity Lakshmikant is there. And for history, the fact-based information is given in Lucent. So you can refer for, I still remember there was this one question, I think in 2022 prelims, that was Phanam is a terminology used for which thing, and the answer was coins to that. And I think that came from Lucent only. So a lot of factual information. Lucent is good in the sense that it will just give you factual details, but the broad understanding of the kind of society that was there during the ancient and medieval times, that you will get from NCRTs. That will help you with your mains. But Lucent is fact-based book, so it will help you in your prelims. This is for polity and history. For economy, again, you can refer to any standard book provided by your institute and a regular reading of the newspaper. And when the budget and the economic survey come, you can make short notes, and a lot of times the notes are like your faculty also helps you with the note making, or there are short summaries provided by various institutes of the budget and the economic survey. So what happens is that I have shared on my Telegram channel also how I had prepared a data sheet for GS3 economy, especially for agriculture, like what is the net sown area in India, area under cultivation and all, and what percent out of all the total crops, how much wheat and rice, how they dominate the cultivation and all. So I prepared this, so you can have a broad idea of the stats from your economic survey and all, and that will help you with your mains answers. Okay, for geography, for a lot of people, and especially for me, I think geography was my Achilles heel. I used to really get scared of geography initially, because like I said, that those NCRTs are very good to go. They are exhaustive, but they are sometimes difficult to understand, especially the climatology part in them. So for that, you can refer to a lot of free YouTube videos also. Some of the videos that I watched to understand certain concepts were, there's this video of Raj Tanil ma'am. She has been a rank holder in a particular year. So Raj Tanil ma'am's videos are there. Then you have Samjho Learning. There is a channel by the name of Samjho Learning. Then there is Amit Sengupta sir. He also posts videos explaining the geography concepts. So he explains line-wise NCERT only. So these are some of the channels you can refer for understanding geography. Okay. So, and like I said, for map-based practice, also, of course, regular reading of the newspaper as I suggested, but still it might happen that you miss out on certain places and their importance, why they were in news. So there are a lot of marathon videos also on YouTube. So this is the best part about our generation, is that we can get everything is just a click away. You just have to have that urge of learning new things and covering things. So there are a lot of marathon videos on YouTube. There are that are maybe 48 hours long and all. What they do is they quickly help you revise those places that were in news throughout the year, and they also explain you through maps where they are located. So just maybe increase the speed at 1.5 speed, watch those videos multiple times a few days before your prelims, and also try to make them on the map along with the teacher. So this way the things will get etched in your mind that, oh, these are the bordering countries of Ukraine, and this is the reason why this place was in news and all. So that was about geography. For environment, I think the kind of questions, they are a mix of both static and current. Environment is more current oriented. For static, you can refer to any book. So I refer to the green book, the Shankar IS book. That is a very famous book among aspirants. And besides this, any current affairs compilation. So from current affairs compilation, I made notes like the protected areas in news, the kind of sanctuaries, national parks that were in news, for which kind of species they were in news, on the banks of which river they are located, in which state do they fall. So when you will do an analysis of the PYQs, you will understand the kind of questions that come from environment. So you can make notes like the protected areas in news, the species in news, any new species that were discovered. Because a lot of times I still remember in one of the PYQs there were questions, 2-3 names were given and they were the names of the bird. So this is how you can cover environment. Now for science and technology, a huge part of science and technology comes from biotechnology itself, and especially after the COVID era. I still remember in my first attempt 2022 there was a question on vaccine development. So the kind of technology that every vaccine has, there's a different concept for DNA vaccine, the mRNA vaccine. So sometimes what happens that these concepts, especially if we do not have a background, it may become difficult for us to understand. So again, your one-stop solution is YouTube. Just type, if you want to understand like how maybe CRISPR-Cas9 works. So this is a concept that has been important since a couple of years now. And the CAR T-cell therapy, it has been in news because of the Tata research since 2 to 3 years. So I was in fact expecting that question also. It might come in a couple of years. So you can just type on the YouTube that what is CAR T-cell therapy, what is CRISPR-Cas9, and they'll give you short videos with visual representation of how it works. And that way it gets etched in your mind ki, okay, this is how the hormones bind onto each other, or this is how this technology works. And of course, you will get your current affair compilation will help you with the notes and stuff. But if you're not able to understand, just type it out on YouTube and they have short videos with visual representation. Okay. Yeah. So this was about the biotechnology part. Regarding your space technology or other information communication technology, ICT based news also come. So for that, your newspaper, and I remember that Indian Express has this explained page. So which has all the new technologies or any important news that was in the past week. So this is the way to go about science and technology, because it's mostly current oriented. Sometimes there are static questions, but these are from your basic NCERT. So for science also you can refer to the basic NCERTs, not the 11th, 12th one, the 6th to 10th maybe, to get your concepts brushed up. But it is mostly current oriented. Okay, so this was all about prelims. Another important part that actually costed me my first attempt was the CSAT. So irrespective of our background, because of late, in fact, I know a couple of people with the engineering background who have flunked CSAT, and people with humanities background acing it. So it's not a written rule that if you have a background, you don't need to practice and you'll be able to cope with CSAT on the D-Day. So we need to really stop underestimating, and especially given how the paper was in 2023. So it has been indicated in the past few years that the level is increasing, and you have to have a certain amount of practice before you sit for the actual paper on the D-Day. So what I did was, I first analyzed my own paper that I attempted of 2022. I prepared an Excel sheet out of it, that what were the kind of questions that I got wrong and which I could have done but couldn't do because of the pressure on the day, because I hadn't practiced for it at all, and what were the kind of questions that I had no idea about. So in this way I analyzed my own paper, and there are a couple of themes that repeat every year, and these are the ones you have to practice, like time and distance ho gaya, then you have time and work, or then permutation combination. There are a lot of questions coming from PNC. Then probability, number system. Number system, I think it's a very broad topic because you have a lot of different types of questions coming from this. So you can prepare this own analysis, that these are the topics I'm comfortable with and these are topics I don't have any idea about. So for topics you have, you need to work hard on, just again, go to YouTube. You will get a lot of videos of banking, SSC, CGL. There are a lot of teachers that explain the concepts in very lucid manner. Just prepare your own notes and little formulas that you would need. And there's this website I used to practice questions from, indiabix.com, India, B-I-X, Indiabix. So it has a chapter-wise questions, so you can practice from that. After having done that, watching the YouTube, along with that forming your own short notes, writing down formulas and practicing questions from this website, then solve the PYQs in a simulated environment. So as regards CSAT, I used to practice CSAT in the afternoon shift only. Sometimes what happens is we might be confident in the paper, but we have that baggage of GS, that how our GS paper went. And then because it happens in the afternoon shift, we are lethargic also. So all of these factors, they don't help our mind work clearly. So you have to attune your mind and body towards the kind of mindset and energy you need for the CSAT paper. So every day at my home, I used to practice CSAT from 2:30 to 4:30 so that my body and mind gets accustomed to it. And even when you attempt the mock papers, try to do it in a simulated environment, that from 9:30 to 11:30 you are doing your GS, you are taking similar amount of break as it happens in the actual paper, and then from 2:30 to 4:30 you are doing your CSAT. So try to attempt your mocks in a similar manner, time yourself and be honest to yourself. So if time is up, just leave the paper. So be honest to yourself while attempting the mocks. Okay, so these were all about the sources. When it comes to practicing for prelims, I think it's a no-brainer that PYQs need to be done first. They are a first priority. What I personally followed was, I did PYQs in 3 iterations. In the sense that suppose I have prelims usually happen in the months of May and June. So, and prelims oriented prep starts from December or January onwards. So when you have done first revision or first reading of all the static subjects, then attempt PYQs of past 10 years. Analyze your mistakes, revise the weak areas. Then give at least, I would say, a month to another iteration. After a month, so that you don't learn the answers and you are well aware of how to approach it, like approach the questions like they are new to you. So after a month, again give that same iteration. From 2014 onwards, the 10. So in 3 iterations, I practiced the PYQs, and in every iteration, I used to note down my weak areas and revise those areas again. After having done the PYQs, or even like you have done for the first month, then your mocks you can continue simultaneously. In mocks also, now this is not a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to mock practice, because a lot of rank holders, they say that they attempted a lot of mocks, close to 100 maybe, and it worked for them. So I would not say that this is the only way to go about it. It worked for me, and so you have to choose it based on your discretion. I did not attempt a lot of mocks. So I had purchased only a couple of mocks. Initially some sectional test for subjects like polity, history, environment, geography, the big 4 and 5 subjects that you have. So I attempted the sectional test in those, and in sectional test I used to aim that I at least have to score 90, because sectional may it's coming from your static only, no, there is little dynamism. But in FLTs, for full length test, there is a combination of both. So in sectional test, at least try to maximize your score, and like the ones that you are getting wrong, revise it from your static sources. So first I attempted the sectional test, then I went for full length test. I did not attempt a lot of tests, I focused more on the PYQs. So the number of tests that you have to attempt, it will depend on your level of revision and practice. But yeah, it's very important to analyze a test and truly analyze it. Sometimes what happens is we tend to have a very high score, and we think that we have mastered the art of clearing prelims and getting through the MCQs. So this one thing that I used to do sometimes, that if I don't feel like studying in a row, like there are a couple of days have passed, 4 to 5 days, and I didn't feel like studying in those days, so then I used to attempt one FLT. So that FLT used to humble me down, because I used to score poorly in that FLT. So then it sort of was a negative motivation also, that see, this is the poor score and you need to buck up. So then I used to bounce back and study again. So like this is a very small thing that I kept for myself, that this is a way of negatively motivating myself. So yeah, I was talking about analyzing your mocks. So what you can do is analyze first of all the questions you're getting wrong from the static area, and the questions you're getting wrong from the current affairs. So from static you will get to know that this particular topic is weak in, let's say, economy, I need to revise it again. And from current, usually what happens, we tend to get those questions wrong that we haven't read in the current. So from mock you can add that to your current affairs notes that you have prepared for your own self, that this appeared in mock but I couldn't answer, so add these new points. So that's the way to go about everything in prelims. So I think if anybody has questions,
we'll take the questions subsequently.
Okay. So I'll come to the mains part. I'll go paper wise in that. First was the essay paper. So what happened was, in essay you may not find the difficulty in collating your content part, because a large part of the content of your essay comes from your GS knowledge. The kind of examples that you use, they will come from world history or Indian history, or you will use maybe geopolitical references you will use in your essay to give examples. But the problem arises in structuring your essay well. So even the UPSC notification, it says that your essay has to be as close to the topic as possible, and your ideas have to be arranged in a very orderly manner. So this is the part that I struggled with. And okay, so and also you need to shed hesitancy when it comes to writing your essays and answers. Your first essay and your first answer will always be the poorest one. Still, when I look at, I feel really embarrassed when I look back at my first essay that I wrote, that how poorly written it was. But you need to get over that hesitancy. You need to start writing, and especially after your prelims, if you have calculated your score and all from the answer keys, provisional answer keys, and if you think you are comfortable enough to clear, then you need to start with your mains preparation right away. So yeah, I wrote my first essay after that, and of course it turned out very poorly. I was not struggling with content. I circulated it amongst my peers and friends, and they said that you have a problem in structuring your essays. And that is when Jawad sir came to my rescue, and I enrolled for his course. So how it helped me in the sense that sir used to make us write essays on the previous year question topics. So I remember the first topic that he took up was it appeared a couple of years ago, like 1 to 2 years ago, that a ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what a ship is for. So the benefit of writing essays on PYQ topics is of late UPSC has been asking questions on philosophical topics. So you are able to gauge that whether you are able to interpret the topic or not, or whether your interpretation, of course, philosophical essays, the best part is that it provides you a lot of scope for imagination, for creativity. But then your interpretation cannot vary very much from that of others, because otherwise it would mean that you have missed the demand of what was being asked. So when you start out with your essay practice, try to do it on the previous year question topics only. Try to understand the topic first. Disaggregate the topics, understand what are the keywords in the topic. Then, of course, sir will definitely help you with the structuring of the essays. Prepare your own unique strategy. And for practicing, I would say again, so this is something that has remained constant in my strategy, giving test in a simulated environment. That I would write down essay, I would time myself out that I have 1.5 hours. So there are 2 essays we have to write, 3-hour paper. So roughly 1.5 hours for every essay. So I set this time limit for myself that I would take 15 minutes for brainstorming and preparing a skeletal framework of the essay. And I would take 1 hour 15 minutes to write that down. So majority of your work is done in brainstorming only, that you do in the rough sheets at the end of your answer booklet, that this is how I will introduce. I will use an anecdote or a phrase or a reference from any famous book. I will use this to introduce the topic. Then I will give some examples to substantiate. Then I will give my thesis statement, which is my understanding of the topic. So this is how I prepared a framework. What happens is when you've done that, it becomes easier for you to write down. You don't have to sit back in the exam hall and think, what should I write next? What should I add in the next paragraph? So this was all about essay. Okay, besides this, one additional thing that I did for myself was I had prepared 2-page notes for essay. So 1 page had all the famous anecdotes that I would use to introduce any essay. And these anecdotes are things that you already know. A lot of people, they give anecdotes of famous World Cup matches, like when Dhoni finished it off in style. I don't follow cricket much, but a lot of people introduce the essays these way. So the anecdotes that I listed down for myself was Prince Siddhartha's departure from his home and how he turned into Buddha after enlightenment. Then there's this your Rosa Parks incident, I would say, about racial profiling, how it sparked a wave of protest. So these are some of the anecdotes I had, or even this is also one of my favorite ones that I have used a lot. Chanakya's machinations, how he installed Chandragupta Maurya on the throne after he was banished by the Nanda ruler. So these were some of the anecdotes I had prepared on a 1-page note that I would introduce my essays with any of these depending on the theme being asked. And another page I had listed all the quotes, famous quotes. So what you can do, sometimes what happens, we unconsciously remember a lot of quotes in our life. So list those down first, and then maybe what is taught in the class, or any famous quote of maybe important leaders like Churchill, Nelson Mandela and all, they have given very beautiful quotes. So I prepared a 1-pager for my quotations that I would use. Another interesting fact is that you can always use your previous year topic as quotes for your essays in this year. And this is something that I did in my actual paper in 2023. So there was the topic that I wrote essay on in section A was visionary thinking lies at the crossroads of intuition and logic. So in this you have to give both sides of the argument about visionary thinking being inspired from logic, or sometimes it is intuitive also, it comes naturally to us. In this essay, while I was writing this essay, I used a quotation that was asked as a previous year essay topic, and that was history is a series of victory won by the scientific man over the romantic man. So and I also remember there's another quote that I used that is a previous year topic. The hand that rocks the world, that rocks the cradle rules the world. That is about the importance of mothers and women in general. So you can always include those previous year essay topics as quotes that you would be using. That was about the essay. Now coming to GS1. So I think the modern history, art and culture part, okay, so I missed the art and culture as subject in prelims. So how I went about it, I kept my sources minimal for all the papers, and especially for art and culture, because a lot of time there's this thick book by Nitin Singhania sir, so a lot of students refer to that, but I did not read that book because I felt that art and culture is something that you work sometimes really hard for, and a lot of questions they just go overboard and we are not able to answer. So I found it a less rewarding area. So I stuck to class 12th, I think, NCRT, that red color NCRT. It's a thin NCRT for art and culture. I read that. And for paintings, a teacher had suggested to me, so for the paintings, your regional schools of painting and all, like the Bundi school and the Pahadi school of painting. So for paintings, I prepared my notes for this website. There's this government website, CCRT website. So I think it's Center for Cultural Resources and Training. So it has given in very interesting point-wise, short paragraph-wise format only on the website, and you can prepare your paintings notes. Since a couple of years paintings are not being asked, but since I had to cover everything, so I prepared my painting notes. So that was about art and culture in prelims. So yeah, what I was trying to say is that in GS1, your history and your art and culture will be taken care of from your prelims knowledge only. In mains, the kind of questions that are being asked. For modern history, I had referred to spectrum, and I continued with that. That helped me in answering the mains questions also. And similar goes for art and culture, because if you will see, questions are coming maybe from temple architecture or the stupa architecture. These are the kind of questions being asked in mains, and that can be taken care of based on your prelims knowledge. Then you will require world history notes again. Sir teaches, I think, world history only. So your class notes are good to go for world history, because mostly just one question comes, and some years not even one question comes from that. So you don't have to go for multiple sources for world history. Then for geography, like I said, those NCRTs will continue to be important. It's just that there will be certain areas like the resources part, the maybe the agri resources or the mineral resources. So in the main syllabus there is a resources part that may not be tackled from the NCRTs. So for that you can refer to any coaching material or compilation. And besides doing this, you can also prepare your own notes based on the current affairs. What I did was I prepared notes on the resources that were in news. So I knew that rare earth elements and all have been in news because of electric vehicles. Then millets had been in news. 2023 was the year of millets. So these were some of the hydrogen, because of the National Green Hydrogen Mission and how it is being used as a fuel. So these were some of the resources that I had prepared that most probably the questions will come from this. But sometimes your guess may not work, because I remember in, I think, 2021 or 22, although I had not written mains, but I had seen the question paper, there was a question on the geographical distribution of rice, if I'm not wrong. So so a key learning from this was also that major agri resources like wheat, rice, sugarcane, so these are some of the important crops that are always important. So you can prepare just one-page notes on that. So this is how you tackle the resources part in geography. Okay. Yeah, for society, I would say I had an edge because I had sociology optional, but this is a double-edged sword again. What happens is that those with sociology optional, they try to give those jargons and those specific concepts, but that doesn't sit well with the examiner, because remember, the one who is checking the paper, it's a general studies paper. The name itself is general studies. It is not going to test you on your sociological knowledge, so that would tend to irritate the examiner maybe. So you have to give a very, I would say, a very organic, simple understanding of the society questions. So I had personally referred to previous year rank holders notes. I think 2021 All India rank 17, Mehak Jain ma'am. So she has her own Telegram channel, and on that she is very active. She posts her own notes of all the papers. So for society, despite coming from a sociology background, because I was fearful that I might use my sociological terms and all, so better refer to a person who has prepared society specific notes. So I referred to her notes. That was all about GS1. I think history, geography, art and culture, society, we've done GS1. So for GS2, yeah. So for polity part, Again, how Lakshmikant would help you is that you will be thorough with your basic articles, constitutional amendments, the concept of parliamentary committees and all, defections, and election commission, the working, how elections happen and all. So you will be thorough with this from your static. So the questions are largely dynamic that come in a polity, and also they are coming more from political philosophy. If you say that there was a question on constitutional morality in one of the years, and this time also in 2023 there was a question on Article 21. So these articles like Article 19, 21, these are very composite articles in the sense that there are many other implicit rights that have been interpreted by the Supreme Court to be a part of these articles. So that it will be taken care of from your class notes. And what I did for revision was that I have posted on my Telegram channel also that for quick, of course you cannot, there's a problem of revising the humongous syllabus for mains, because it happens continuously. Your Subha is GS1, then GS2, next day GS3, GS4. So like for GS3 I had prepared a data sheet, a fact sheet. For GS2, I had prepared I would say 3 to 4 page notes of all the important Supreme Court judgments, the important committee recommendations, and you have to do it so many times, multiple times, that it gets ingrained in your brain. That when someone is talking about, let us say, independence of election commission, then you have to quote committees like Dinesh Goswami committee, Justice Tarkunde committee, the second ARC, of course, it's there for all the topics. So you have to be Balwant Rai Mehta committee and all for the Panchayati Raj institutions. So it has to come naturally to you. So just prepare a list of all the important judgments and all for quick revision, judgments and committee recommendations. So that was about polity. For governance also, again, make use of your class notes, and you will get unique points for governance from your monthly current affair compilations also, and also from the newspapers. So yeah, that was for international relations. What I did was so mostly the international relation questions, I would say, are a little predictable in the sense that they mostly come from the topics that were there in news. So in 2023 there was a question on NATO, and because of Russia Ukraine it had been in news. So keep a tab on the current affairs, I would say. And your class notes will help you in structuring your IR answers. They will help you with the keywords like rules-based order. What is rules-based order? What is the UNCLAUSE, the Convention on Laws of Seas and all? How are the bilateral relations, India's relations with all of its neighbors, the kind of treaties we have, the working of UN and all. So your class notes will take care of that. You just have to keep a tab on the current affairs, that these all institutions were in news. These are the new agreements being signed, the IMEC that has been signed between India and all, or the mineral security partnership has been signed, or G20 was in news. As a grouping, G20 becomes important. So or if a particular say a G7 ka koi meeting has happened and an important agreement was signed, then automatically this grouping becomes important for you. So just keep a tab on current affairs, I would say, for international relations, and your class notes, you will be good to go. Coming to GS3, I think I found it the most difficult paper amongst all, because it's quite dynamic, and you will find only few people scoring very good in GS3. So naturally, I think there was a mistake on my part also, because I had prepared more for certain topics in GS3 and ignored a little the other topics. So I wouldn't suggest you all to do that. So for GS3, prepare very well for this, because GS3 is something that is very fact and data heavy. You have your economy, science and tech, environment, internal security, disaster management. So these many subjects you have in GS3. And you have to be very good with the facts and all, with the data that you will be using to substantiate your answer, especially for the economy part. So for economy, like I mentioned, I have a posted data sheet. You can refer to that how I made notes. Besides just the editorial examples, like I said, Ashok Gulati sir's notes, editorials come. For environment and science and technology, again, I would say that your prelims knowledge will greatly help you in your GS3. Like I remember in 2023, there was a question on Chandrayaan. So again, because the mission had taken place, so it was very natural. So it is not something that can be called an outlier or unexpected. Of course, there are unexpected questions, few unexpected questions across all the GS papers, but otherwise mains is something that is largely predictable. So it all depends on how well prepared you are. So for GS, yeah, so science and tech environment, your prelims knowledge will help you. You just have to know how to write the answers for that. For disaster management, I would again say that keep a tab on the disasters and all that were in news recently. Like I was prepared ki there were Joshimath cracks in Uttarakhand during my time, so I was prepared with that. Then there was this Syria Turkey earthquake was also there. So keep a tab on the disasters that were in news, and questions will most likely come from that. Largely, yeah, internal security, I think it is the best, I would say, a part of GS3. So you can give a contextual introduction that in the wake of this attack, so this way the examiner knows that this person knows that why the question has been asked. So try to give a contextual introduction. So in order to give that contextual introduction to your answers, keep a tab on the internal security related incidents. And again, how data can help, for example, that let us say there's a question on left-wing extremism, and you can quote a data of the National Crime Records Bureau and all that there has been this much percentage reduction in the deaths of the security personnel, or only these many districts are under the control of the armed forces. And yeah, so again, and besides these, another unique point is that committee recommendations again become important, especially for topics like AFSPA. You have your Kargil Review Committee, the Shikatkar Committee you have. So for internal security, keep a tab on current affairs for contextual intro, then your current affair compilation will take care of the data and stuff related to deaths and all, the reduction in crime rate, and also prepare again short notes of the committees that you will quote in internal security. Okay, so GS4, I think I worked hardest for this paper, and naturally it bore results, because what happens is in rest of the GS, most of the subjects we are already acquainted with them during our prelims preparation, the history, geography, economy, and all, but this is an entirely new subject for us. Ethics is only confined to mains. So for ethics, I would say there are only some basic things which if you can do, it will not come across as a very insurmountable challenge to you, the paper. Because when we are not prepared for ethics and when we look at the question paper, it seems very vague to us, that how are we supposed to maybe explain crisis of conscience and all. It would differ across people how they would explain. But there are certain basics, if you do, the paper will not seem vague to you. So first of all, prepare your notes for all the syllabus heads. The ethics syllabus is quite exhaustive, and it has literally given all the values, let us say, perseverance, dedication to public service, tolerance. So these values have already been given in the syllabus, and these are the ones that are being asked. So prepare your notes on the syllabus heads. And in ethics, I would also say a different kind of mindset and approach is required for both section A and section B. So what happens is that we get too occupied sometimes with the case studies, because they carry marks also, huge number of marks. There are a lot of subparts to case studies, and we tend to ignore section A. But you have to understand that your knowledge of section A will help you in answering or giving justifications to the answers of section B. And anyway, the examiner is going to check the paper in that form only from section A, and you have to leave your impression there. Besides this, another reason why I consider the section A to be important is in case studies, of course, everybody would and everybody should go for an ethical course of action. So if there is a case study on corruption, of course, everybody would suggest that there should be an inquiry set up, or maybe whistleblowing must be done. There should be the misutilization of public funds should be stopped. Everybody would suggest that. It's natural. So your answers wouldn't vary. It's just your justifications for giving those courses of action would vary. So the scope for showing your creativity lies in section A, where your direct questions have been asked or the quotations have been asked of famous leaders, and you have to interpret those quotations. So I would say for section A, so based on all syllabus heads, prepare your notes, and certain philosophical thinkers, your Socrates, John Rawls, Indian philosophers like Charvak's Lokayata philosophy and all, then Chanakya's ideas also. So prepare a list of all these philosophies, because you can just, these philosophies would be just cherry on the cake for your answers. That you would give a justification that why I'm going for this ethical course of action, because it is my duty to do so, and Immanuel Kant has said. that you have to do it as a matter of duty. So those philosophers' thoughts will act as the justifications for your answers. Another important thing for ethics is that prepare a list of examples of public servants, maybe those who might have lost their lives in an act of bravery, or those who are right now serving, or those who have retired, who have done exceptional things, to quote as examples in virtues, the different values that are being asked. So similarly, I had prepared a list of all the public servants, that if a question is asked on, let us say, courage, then I would quote maybe Satyendra Dubey. If a question on dedication to public service has been asked, I would quote Soumya Pandey ma'am. She cut down her maternity leave to take care of the COVID affected district under her supervision. So I prepared these public servants, and the best part is that you can use them across virtues. So that is the way to go about ethics. That okay, so this is how you learn. And when it comes to practicing, again prioritize your PYQs first. So from PYQs, of course, section A you have to do. PYQs are most beneficial for your case study part. So what I did was I analyzed the section B, the case study part, of past 7 to 8 years. And when you will analyze all the case studies, you will find that there are recurring themes, that every year almost there is a case study on corruption or misutilization of public funds. There is a case study on, let us say, international ethics, maybe arms proliferation, or where there is a ethical conundrum between your international trade. Suppose I remember there was this case study 2 years ago ki India had to sell missiles. So there is this threat ki it might lead to arms proliferation, it might be used for human rights abuses, but you have your trade commitments also with your bilateral partners. So this is a part of international ethics. So there are some recurring themes. Then there is a commonly repeated theme of development versus ecology. Let's suppose you are made an administrator of a tribal region and you have to initiate a developmental project, but that compromises with the way of life of the tribals that live in a pristine environment, in a natural state. So the development versus ecology is a recurring theme. Gender justice most of the times on harassment or misconduct in working environment against women. So these are some of the recurring themes you will identify based on your analysis of case studies of past 7 to 8 years. And then you can prepare a framework on these themes. That let us say if a question on corruption comes, this is how I will introduce. I will again give a contextual intro that this is the rank of India in Corruption Perception Index by Transparency International and how we need to improve upon that. And this case study is also talking about corruption at large. So this way, examiner knows ki okay, this person has hit the demand of the question. This person knows what the case study is asking. So prepare a framework that if a question comes on this theme, I will introduce it in this way. The ethical concerns mostly remain same. That let us say, okay, so work culture is another recurring theme in case studies, that there is a very poor work culture that demotivates the subordinates, or sometimes what happens is that the superior has a very violent atmosphere at home. So there is a spillover effect in the workspace. So what are the ethical concerns? That there is a lack of emotional intelligence, or there is a bad superior subordinate relationship. There is no clear separation between your public ethics and your private ethics, public and private conduct. So these ethical concerns will largely remain same if a question comes on work culture. So prepare a framework of introducing the case study of a particular theme, the ethical concerns that will arise, the course of action, and those courses of action will be backed by your philosophers' ideas. That Gandhi's ahimsa, or you will say that not using a person as a not using other human being as a means to an end. So these are some of the philosophical ideas you will use as justification for your ethical course of action. So in this way, when your frameworks will be prepared, you will be able to tackle the case studies, and it will not take much time. What happens is why people tend to lose time in ethics and why they miss out on the paper is they start to think there itself in the classroom that how do they approach every case study as a new. Of course, there will be some new ones also, like in 2023, I think the last case study was on child socializing and the use of social media, how it impacts the socialization of children. There will be some outliers too, but largely I said that recurring themes, you will find them in the paper. When you will have the framework prepared in your mind, you will automatically fix it on the case study. So this way you will not miss in the paper. Okay, so this was about the mains, I would say the practicing stuff and the learning. Then how to go about the test in mains. So like I said that once, so once you are done with revising a particular topic, let us say you have revised GS1 Society, then attempt its PYQs of maybe the past 5 years. So this way your PYQ preparation and answering will be integrated with your mains revision. And you will also get a flavor of how to write answers for mains. After you are done with this exercise, then go for the test series, the mains test series. And again, this will continue to remain constant in my strategy, that give test in a simulated environment, 3-hour test. Be honest to yourself, I used to miss out on at least one question in every test series till the time of my mains, and I didn't miss any question in my actual mains except for the one question in sociology that I left deliberately because I didn't know answer to that. I'll come to that later. But yeah, so this exercise, you know, will help that once you are in a doing a simulated environment, 3 hours are up, stop writing even if you haven't been able to write answers to all the 20 questions, and submit it for evaluation. Honestly, this will help you keep a track of your pace. Okay, so that was about the GS part and the essay. Coming to optional, they must be having different optionals.
Nevertheless, you talk about sociology and a general strategy of how you select optional subject.
Okay.
What you need to be particular
Yeah.
about.
So we all have, I think, different motivations for selecting different optionals. Some people have a UG background in that. Some people check the convergence of that paper with other papers, a factor which I also considered, that, you know, sociology coincides with a lot of paper, and the sociological knowledge helps you in other papers like your essay and ethics also. So because of the convergences and because of my inquisitiveness to learn something new, despite having a commerce background and despite commerce and accountancy being available as an optional subject, I still went for sociology because I found the syllabus interesting. So I think largely a general strategy for optional would be that of course you all refer to different sources, but prepare your own notes, because when you will have difficulty in revising GS papers for mains, imagine the amount of revision you will have to do for optional, because optional in itself is humongous, and how you will revise quickly. You get only just 5 days. Once you're done with your GS4, then you have 5 days, and after 5 days you have your language papers, compulsory language paper, and then your optional paper. So to revise such a humongous optional, you have to have your own notes. So prepare your own notes for both the papers and revise them multiple times. And I cannot stress enough the importance of PYQs for optional, and especially for optional, because what happens in GS, we may find outlier questions, 1 to 2, 2 to 3 questions in every paper, but they are very less for optional. Optional paper is largely along the predictable lines. It is not as dynamic. So once you will be done with the PYQs, you will know that these are the kind of questions coming from this particular topic, right? So this is why I always say, I have this motto that PYQs, they prepare for what is yet to come, and your test series prepare you for the unpredictable. Because test series tend to have very dynamic questions, so that prepare you, that the test series help you to prepare for the fact that how will I answer the question I haven't come across in exam like environment. But PYQs give an idea that this is how UPSC asks questions. So for optional, when you're done with the note making, your revision part, then start attempting your PYQs. So this is all about the academic part. I would also come to the non-academic part and the kind of mindset that we need to have. It might vary for a lot of people depending on the kind of UG background they have, but it is always good and advisable to have this clarity that these are the number of attempts I am going to sit for. And if you have chosen, a lot of people choose only one attempt, maybe ki I will give one attempt, and a lot think that I will be using all the 6 attempts that or number of attempts at maximum the UPSC has provided. So it varies from person to person, but the number of attempts that you have chosen for yourself, you have to be very honest to yourself that in those many attempts I will stay true to my preparation. So when I started my journey, I had envisioned that maximum I would be giving 3 attempts. Because what happens is, because of sunk cost, people tend to remain in the cycle. Ki, 3 years I have already exhausted. As it is, nobody would really want me in the job market, and this much learning would go to waste. So why not give one another attempt? And they go on exhausting 6 to 7 years. And unfortunately, if they aren't able to make it, when they return to the job market, they get a rude shock, irrespective of the degree you have. Some people have tier 1 degrees, they are marketable degrees, they will always remain in demand, but even then they face the disadvantage. Because I see it from an employer's perspective, know that why would they hire someone with a 6-year gap as opposed to a fresher who is more in tune with the soft skills and the kind of skills that are in demand in market. So decide for yourself the number of attempts you will be sitting for, and after every attempt analyze, be honest to yourself about the mistakes that you committed. I remember when I came out of the hall after giving my first attempt, because I hadn't prepared CSAT, and naturally I faltered while giving the exam. I knew I was going to fail it, so when I came out of the hall, I knew that I'm going to fail this attempt. So I straight away started, because you have to be mains ready. Prelims preparation can be done from December, Jan onwards for prelims in May or June. But the entire year you have to prepare for mains. You have to be mains ready, so that after prelims, those 3 months, I wouldn't say they are enough for reading new things also and writing answers at the same time. So we have to be mains ready before the cycle commences. So after my first attempt, when I came back, I started consolidating my ethics notes. I started preparing my optional notes, and these are the loopholes that were there in my first attempt. I carefully analyzed, and I understood that these were the gaps. Had I even gotten through the prelims, I would have definitely failed mains, because I was not mains ready at that point. So after every attempt, carefully analyze your mistakes and rectify them. It's only after, let us say, you've given your everything, and unfortunately if you're not able to make it, then maybe you can ascribe that to destiny or the subjectivity of the process. But there shouldn't be any regret that I should have done this, I didn't do this, that's why I couldn't qualify. It's only I would talk about myself while I was waiting for the results. I was a little scared, like everybody is, and although I had decided that I would be giving 3 attempts in total, but I wasn't really in the mood to give 3rd attempt, because I felt I have given my everything this time. I have done everything that I could. I don't have anything to add upon if ever I will have to sit for another attempt. So this feeling you should be having, that contentment that I have done everything now and I leave it to my destiny. This is one, I would say, that having that clarity in mind. And second would be, I would say, a non-complaining attitude. A lot of times I have also come across like my peers and other aspirants who have this, who are always whining about things, about that syllabus is so humongous, or that evaluation, mains answers evaluation is a black box. We don't know what kind of answers get what kind of marks. So you have to understand the process has been like this since years. And if you have a problem, nobody is forcing you to sit for the paper, right? It was your decision to sit for the paper. Nobody is saying that remain in this black hole and you have to cope with this. There are exit options everywhere. So for this, I would say you have to always respect the paper that you're appearing for, irrespective of maybe UPSC, CAT, GATE, any paper. You have to respect the paper and the institution that has set the process. A lot of thinking goes into how the process is designed. So they must have thought it through. And if you are having certain problems with it, then you are free to leave. So this is advisable, because if we are always complaining about things, we don't tend to have a solution-centric approach. And they are looking for problem solvers. They are looking for administrators who will solve the problems for the district, for the country at large, the law and order problems, the revenue problems. So if you will be having that attitude, then first of all, you won't be able to clear if you will be having that complaining attitude. And it will also reflect in your answers. When you will be writing your answers, if you're not giving a way forward or you're not coming across as an optimistic person, then I don't think that you are suitable enough for the job. So try to shed that complaining attitude. Besides this, I would also say that being very methodical in your approach and being very target oriented. Like I would talk about myself, that when I started this journey, I hadn't envisioned that I want to be in the top 100, leave alone top 20. So I hadn't set this any target for me. This also varies from people to people. A lot of rank holders, they write under 100 and they stick it on their table. This is what I'm going to achieve. But even if you do that, don't get overwhelmed by it. That, don't start daydreaming about the kind of fame you will achieve, daydreaming about days in Labasna and doing dinner at the Rashtrapati Bhavan and all. So don't daydream about these things, because we get so overwhelmed by the after picture that seems so rosy that we tend to lose sight of the small battles that we have to win. So once you're in these all will be taken care of. You can always enjoy them. These will be the fruits of your labor. But first you have to put in that required amount of labor. So always set small targets for yourself. Maybe let us say a weekly target, a monthly target, or a quarterly target. It will differ for every person. I had prepared an Excel sheet that was my schedule for one complete year. When my prelims result of 2022 came and I knew that I had failed it, I prepared one Excel sheet that this is going to be my calendar for 2023. And I broke down that calendar into monthly targets that I would set for myself. And so we have to be very target oriented in this sense, and in order to break the monotony, so the process also tends to get monotonous after a certain point. So you have to take small reprieves from the process so that you don't get bogged down by the magnanimity of the exam. Keep small treats for yourself. Like what I used to do, that otherwise my social media handles were all deactivated. But I used to say that if I complete this month's target, I would open my Insta account again. I would use it for 1 week and then I will deactivate it again. So these were small incentives that I had set for myself, because what happens then, we are looking forward to the incentive that okay, we are now studying and there is an incentive waiting for me at the end of the month. And it could be anything. It could be maybe an outing with your friends or family, or a movie that you have been waiting to watch since a long time. So these are some of the short incentives you can set for yourself that helps to break the monotony. That is something that after you have completed the target. But within a day also, like if you have stipulated that I'm going to give this much amount of time, I'm going to study for maybe 8 hours for the day, and once you are done with the stipulated amount of hours, take a short break, maybe watch something. What I used to do, I used to take a walk in my society, or I used to talk to my friends. So you have to give certain time where you're not thinking about the exam only. You have to get your mind off the exam and realize that I have a life beyond this. And this mistake that everyone commits is they regard the exam the be all, the end all, that this is the center of my universe, and if I'm ye nahi hua to this, my life will end or collapse. So when you give your time off to other things, you feel that you are alive, okay, that there is a life beyond this exam also. And this is something that I've mentioned in my Telegram channel also, that be it this exam or any other exam, they are not an accurate measure of your capabilities, of your metal, the amount of gel that you have. Maybe you, like I had told myself that if I'm not able to make it after 3 attempts, I would take a graceful exit. I would tell that maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I don't have the necessary qualities that are required from an administrator, and I'll make my destiny somewhere else. So as a backup, I had given a CAT also. I had converted a couple of colleges. So that is where the importance of a backup or the plan B comes into picture. It helps you remind yourself that if I am not able to get through this, I have something to fall back on. I will do good in that other field. So it's very important to not get bogged down by the exam itself. So these are some of the things I would say, and I think the floor is open to questions now.
Say something about your interview.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So sorry, yeah, as regards the interview, okay, so there's this one thing important, that there's a different kind of mindset and approach required that differs with every stage of the exam. This is what I feel I have figured out from my journey. When we are studying for prelims, we are more detail oriented. We are like a fact finding machine, that we find a fact, we memorize it, and we tend to keep it in mind, or the concept, the one liner concepts, we try to keep it in mind. And for mains, we are more our mind works in a more broad manner. We try to understand the things in a multi-dimensional perspective, in a larger setting. That if someone asks us a question, let us say World War II in world history, we try to give the entire context to it, the kind of society, how the economy was affected, the position of women and the role of women and all. So then you have a very broad perspective. And for interview, I would say that broad perspective that you have gained, now you are the explainer of that perspective. You have to come across as an informed person who has an opinion, and a very balanced opinion on an issue. So that was a difference in mindset, and that is why the approach required is different for all the stages. For interview, in order to have an informed opinion on multiple issues, you need to refer to multiple sources also for that, because we know that every source and every writer carries a bias to it, even we do. So naturally, I followed two newspapers. I followed Indian Express and the Hindu both. Till then, I had been following the Hindu only, and occasionally Indian Express. And for economy, because I had a commerce background, so questions from economy were bound to come in my interview, and they did come also. So I referred to Mint newspaper. Mint, I think it's a digital media platform. So from multiple, okay, so that was about the sources. So in this journey, like I was telling sir also yesterday, there are certain things that are controllable, and there are certain variables also that are beyond our control in every stage. For instance, your static book and sources and your syllabus and PYQs, they are controllable because they have already provided you the blueprint. If any question or anything that comes beyond this, that is a variable part, and that will remain the same across aspirants. Similarly, in interview, there's a detailed application form for those who don't know. So there's a DAF. So your DAF has your entire history, your home district, your parents' district, their occupation, and if you worked in the past, particulars of your employment, then your educational background, from where did you do your 10th, 12th, your graduation. Then it has a section on your extracurricular activities, the medals or scholarships that you won. So it is your entire profile. The detailed application form, and this is something that I call the controllable part of the interview. Your story, of course, is controllable, and you are expected to, and you should be able to justify your story in the interview. If anything comes beyond this, that is variable for everybody, right? And again, like I said, that like test series prepare you for unpredictability, your mock interviews prepare you for unpredictability here also. So for interview, I had prepared notes. Okay, so I had prepared notes for interview also. We were a group of 5 friends who had appeared for interview, and they used to tease me that who prepares notes for interviews. But then too, like I am someone who is very, who likes to write down things and always make a note of everything. So I had prepared my own notes, and there were 2 sets of notes for interview. One was based on my DAF, the entirety of my DAF, and you have to go into nitty-gritty of everything. Starting right from your name, if it has some historical, mythological significance or a background attached to it, or if there is a place or a river by the same name, the historical significance of that, and even your surname. So every detail, even your address, a lot of people have the name of a famous leader in the address. Like across India, we have the Mahatma Gandhi Marg, Vivekanand Marg. So prepare your address well, and even your birth date. If your birth date is falling on an important day, like I know someone whose birthday falls on 26th January, so naturally he had to be prepared with that, the historical significance. So what I'm trying to put across is that you have to prepare your notes and details of every thing that appears in your DAF. Because if you're not able to justify your story, DAF is all about you. If you're not able to justify your own self, then you come across as a very non-serious person, that you don't take yourself seriously. Okay, so one set of notes I prepared for my DAF, and other set of notes was my current affairs and also the international relations, because I had opted IFS as my first preference. So I had prepared all the international relations events that were in news. So again, यहाँ पे भी there was a demarcation between static and dynamic. Static is your DAF and dynamic is your current affairs. But the good part about the current affairs here is that you don't have to go back 1 year before, because of course the panelists would also, they would remember things that happened maybe 2 months ago, more at most 1 to 1.5 months ago. So the events that have happened maximum 2 months ago prior to the date of your interview, just prepare those current events in news. And like your birth date, even the date of your interview, if the interview date is also falling on an important day, then that becomes important. They ask that what is the significance of this day. And anything that happens even on the morning of the interview becomes important. Like I still remember a famous sociologist, JPS Oberoi, had passed away, and the first phase of interviews were going, and a lot of sociology optional students were asked that who passed away this morning or who passed away yesterday and what has been his contribution to sociology. So till the morning of your interview, you have to be aware of whatever has taken place. And like I said, like you give mock test for your mains and prelims, again go for mock interviews. They help you shed that hesitancy of expressing yourself. You will know the kind of body language you are required to exhibit there, how you have to put across your points, how you have to come across as balanced person. They prepare you for the controversial questions also. So that was that about interview.
Whether you were asked in interview about your hometown Allahabad and its spelling in Hindi, why it starts with E.
Yes, sir.
So did you answer that question there, and what is the significance?
Yes, sir. So I took a guess. Now I don't know if it was right or not. So there was a question because my hometown is Allahabad. So first of all, he asked me that give me the Hindi spelling of Allahabad, and interestingly, it starts with E, Allahabad. It starts. And then he asked that why is there a difference between the English version and the Hindi version in the pronunciation. So so these are the kind of outlier questions in interview, and they try to see, you have to understand that they are not checking the correctness of your knowledge there. They are just checking your presence of mind and how you are able to tackle that pressure on the spot. So I said, sir, I would like to take a guess. I'm not very sure. So you first take the permission that I would like to take a guess. And I said that initially, so it was in the ancient times it was called Prayag only, because Prayag is the confluence or the meeting point of the rivers. Then during the Mughal era, it was renamed as Allahabad by Akbar. So Allahabad is regarded as the abode of gods. So this is what I inferred, that maybe when Allahabad was converted to Allahabad, it continued. But when the British came, because the modern times also Allahabad was very important, and when they anglicized this, so basically this was an anglicized version of Allahabad. So I just took a guess there. I don't know, I still don't know if I'm right or not. So I said that maybe because of the anglicized version, the E became A in the English spelling. And of course they don't tell you that you are right or wrong. They have a very poker face there. So you cannot make out from any of the panelist faces that whether your interview is going smooth or whether you are not doing great. Only the score is a true testament of that, and the feeling that you have when you come out of the hall that okay, I was able to justify at least the questions from my DAF and all. So yes, sir.
Awesome. I'm sure it was a great treat listening to her, but you would still have a lot of doubts in your mind, and you would like to ask those to Wardah. The floor is now open for questions. Please feel free to ask in English, Hindi or Marathi. I see a lot of ex-students who are from Marathi batches also. So Marathi मध्ये विचारा प्रश्न, आपण वाटल्यास ते ट्रान्सलेट करूयात वर्धासाठी. Don't let language be an inhibition. वाटत असेल प्रश्न तर नक्की आवर्जून विचारा. Raise your hands so that we can address it.
How notes making and answer writing are differs from each other. Notes making and answer writing.
Okay.
And
So
since we are recording, their voice might not get recorded. So if you could just briefly tell the question. And
yeah, okay. So she asked that how does note making differ from answer writing? Yeah. So see, it also differs the purpose for which you are making notes. Of course, when you are making your notes out of your monthly compilations and all for current affairs, that is for you to remember the facts for prelims. And when you are making notes along with the lectures of different subjects, that is basically the part that you have to learn and then reproduce in answer writing format. Now I don't know how to put it across, but let us say, suppose you have to make notes, like a lecture is going on Article 21 and all. And you have all the important judgments, the A.K. Gopalan case, then the Maneka Gandhi case, then right to privacy was later reinterpreted, the Puttaswamy case you have. You have all of this in your notes. Now suppose a question has come that how is Article 21 a composite right? First you will introduce that it is a part of the Part 3 fundamental rights, and it is enforceable by the courts of law. You will first give an introduction. It gives right to life and personal liberty. And then you will use the points given in your notes. You will use the judgments to justify your answer. So a lot of people, what they do is that they prepare their notes in answer format only. But this is not something that I did. I prepared my own notes, I memorized and learned those notes, and I was able to recollect the points and the judgments and all that were there in my notes while writing down the answer. Because what happens is that your question will differ from a particular topic. From Article 21 only, there can be different types of questions that can be asked. But your basic understanding and the judgments, that will remain the same. So it helps you to tailor make your notes points depending upon the demand of the question, what the question is asked. Similarly, for I would say my optional also, like for sociology, I have all the thinkers. Let us say there is a topic on religion. So I have the views of Durkheim on religion, Weber's views, Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism. So I have all these, and there is a question that maybe give a functionalist perspective or give a critical perspective of religion. Now I will first introduce that what is religion, okay? Then that is a sociological definition of religion in Durkheim's terms, and then I will give a critical perspective or functionalist perspective, and then I will quote a particular thinker that this why this is functional, because a particular thinker has given the reasons why it is functional in this sense. So I would say, yeah, the knowledge that you have gained while after you have memorized your notes, that can be modified in the way you use them in the answers, because from particular topic different kind of questions can be asked.
What was your revision strategy during prelims as well as means?
Yeah, okay. So for prelims, while studying also and while revising, I used to take 2 subjects at a time, because sometimes studying one subject gets monotonous. So let us say if I have taken polity and economy, current affairs, of course, you have to devote a particular time to current affairs also. So my day typically started with I read the newspaper. I have because I had made notes of current affairs of all the 12 months supposedly, and this is the time period before prelims is approaching and I have to revise for prelims. This is what I'm telling you. So I will read the newspaper. I will revise, let us say June or maybe July current affairs notes that I have prepared for myself. Then in the morning shift I will study one subject. Some chapters I might have earmarked for myself that I have to study fundamental rights, DPSP's first part of the book today. I will do that. Then in the afternoon I will practice my CSAT for 2 hours roughly, and then in evening I will do another subject. Let us say economy. I have earmarked again 2 to 3 chapters that I have to complete today. So in this manner, when you will take 2 subjects at a time, let us say every week or every month, and also your frequency, it goes on increasing of revision as you are closer to the prelims, because you will have revised them so many times that it will take you only couple of days to get through the entire book. Then what you can do, that 15 days in a month you can devote for 2 subjects, and rest of the 15 days for 2 subjects. So 4 subjects you are able to cover in a month in this manner. And then sometimes all the subjects in a month where you have devoted just a week or just a couple of days. So it depends on your pace and the level of preparation and the comfort you have with a particular subject. That goes for prelims. For mains, like I said, that initially you study a subject, you have done governance supposedly for GS2, then you practice your PYQs along with it. Then you switch over to international relations. So polity, governance, international relations, now your GS2 is done. This is the way you study. Now when it comes to revising, so of course you will be thorough with the basic concepts you will know that what is so there's a topic in governance, maybe role of civil services in democracy. Now you know what is the role. It's just that you have to learn the fodder points. So like I've posted in my Telegram channel also, I had prepared some 2 to 3 pager sheets where I had written down all the important judgments, committee recommendations, and a fact sheet for GS3 where I had mentioned all the stats. So this is something that I used to memorize multiple times when few days for my mains were left, because I knew that if a question comes, let us say, on feminization of agriculture, I will know what are the basic problems because I have studied it while I was doing the PYQs and from my lecture notes. What I need to remember is what is the ownership of land holdings under the women control, the amount of bank credit that is being provided to the women land owners. So that will come from your fact sheet. If you have prepared your fact sheet and revised it multiple times, you will know the concept. You just have to pick the fodder points from the fact sheet that you have revised multiple times. Yeah.
What were the sources for sociology?
Okay, so for sociology, I prepared my own notes for both the papers. So for first paper, Nitin Sangwan sir's Essential Sociology. Then Harlambus and Holborn, there are 2 books of Harlambus. The blue thick one I referred for a few chapters only. You can see that from the syllabus. Then Ritzer, there is an orange book, Ritzer, that is for thinkers' perspectives. So only for the thinkers I refer to Ritzer. From these 3 sources, I prepared my notes for paper 1. Then for paper 2, I refer to Vikas Ranjan sir's book. There is a book on Indian society, black cover, I think. And because I had taken guidance from, there's a coaching there in Delhi, Level Up IS, Nishad sir. So Nishad sir's material also I had referred for paper 2. In both the papers, I had also added unique thinkers and unique points from toppers' notes. So I had referred to Neha Bhosle ma'am. I think 2019 in top 20 only, she is a rank holder, or top 50. So from Neha Bhosle's ma'am's notes, I had added unique thinkers and points to my notes. And I revised those notes multiple times. When I began answer writing for sociology, so if you want to get an idea of how answers are written for sociology, then I refer to a couple of topper copies. I refer to Jagrati Avasthi ma'am's notes. She was All India rank 2, I think, a couple of years ago. Then Jatin Jain sir's notes, copies. 2022 All India rank 90s, I think his rank was in the 90s. So I referred to a couple of copies to see how the answers are written.
Ma'am, I'm a second year engineering student and I'm likely to give my first attempt in 2026. So what should be my approach? And second is means what motivated you to leave your job and means do full-time study for UPSC?
Okay. So for first question, I wouldn't say that I'm qualified enough to answer because honestly, my journey has been different. I didn't start from college itself. So someone who started from college, there are a few rank holders. I think rank 23 this year. He's from IIT, and right from graduation, I think he only started. So they might have addressed this in a few of their talks. You can refer to that. As regards your second question, that how I arrived at this decision. While I was working, and after I was done with my day's work, this I told sir also yesterday only, I used to analyze that what contribution have I made to my personal growth and to maybe people around me. I couldn't understand that by checking accuracy of financial statements, checking legal compliances and all, what change am I making, what impact am I creating. So I couldn't see a perceptible change around me. Then there was a lot of times, so what happens is that since you are in second year only, that sometimes we take campus placement, so we buy ourselves some time to think what we really want from life. So placements usually happen in the final year. We think that we'll take this up, and while working we'll decide what we have to do, maybe MBA or a master's or a job switch to another domain or appearing for another exam. So that was a time I had bought for myself to figure out what I want. So I was, there was this interest that I always had in my school days also, learning about history and stuff. And in my college, I was active in the Model United Nations, the MUN Society. So it's a form of a debate where there's a simulation of UN conferences and all. So all of these activities, they run in the DU circles, the Delhi University circles. I was there in the editorial board also of my department. So we used to write articles on the geo-economic issues and stuff. So I was acquainted with what's going around, and I thought that this is what I enjoyed back in college. But what I'm doing right now, the kind of job that I'm doing, I'm not really enjoying. So the civil services exam, I would say, I hadn't thought much about the kind of service or the kind of IAS, IPS, IFS what I would be choosing, but just this one thought that this exam would give me an opportunity to learn so many subjects, to have a multidisciplinary learning. So that quite piqued my interest back then. So not being able to see a change that I'm making through my job, and then an interest in multidisciplinary learning, all of that culminated into this decision. Yes.
And what is the X factor you required to get to the prelims, or what was your X factor, as the 2023 prelims was the toughest one till then?
Yes.
Or how to prepare and be tackled with the volatility of the exam?
Yeah. So one thing I would also like to point out that I would say that it is a sort of a misconception that the 2023 was the toughest, in the sense that when we sat for the paper, we had followed a similar strategy that we were following. We did know that the pattern of questions would change in the upcoming paper, but still 14,600 students were able to clear. They had no idea, no inkling that a new pattern is going to come, but still they made it because they had used a similar strategy that had been in use. So it's not like you require a very massive change in your strategy. It is still not required. You have to refer, and also come into the question of X factor. I think it is more pertinent in your mains. Because what happens is in a mains, out of 5, 1 person will be going, 1:5 roughly is the ratio of people that will be selected for your interview. So like 2,800 people cleared mains. So if you 15,000 roughly your people will write mains, and your 3,000 people will give interview. So if 5 people, let us say, are writing on the same topic, giving the same argument, then you have to prove why I deserve to be in the list, why I deserve to be interviewed. There your X factor comes. There are the unique points, the datas and the philosophical justifications, the way you write your answers, structuring of your essays and all. Those are the X factors that come into play. For prelims, I wouldn't say that an X factor sort of required, because you all have to refer to static sources. It's just that not everyone does it. We know what is required, but still we don't do it. So for prelims, your static has to be very strong. I still remember in my 22 attempts, so I had failed both the papers quite embarrassingly, both GS and CSAT. GS, I had missed the cutoff by 1.33 marks. So I knew that at least my GS strategy is somewhat on track. And when I analyzed the paper, I figured out that the questions that I had gotten wrong were from polity, economy, the conceptual questions that can be tackled. They were not very unique questions, just unexpected ones. They were not the kind of questions. So have a good hold over your static, keep limited resource for current affairs, regular newspaper reading, and refer to one compilation from where you will make your own notes. And if you just do this, the thing is, we always start looking for unique things. We tend to ignore the importance of monotonous things. And this journey is all about doing the monotonous thing every day on an everyday basis. So if you're able to do that, I think prelims is not a big hurdle then, if you've done this much basics. Beyond that, if you're not able to clear, then again that's on destiny and subjectivity. Yeah. Okay, so the person has asked about the importance of handwritten notes, or whether they should be made in soft copy format. So it depends on the kind of format you are comfortable with. For instance, for all my GS papers, because I had joined a foundation coaching, so with lectures I used to make handwritten notes. I prepared a separate copy for every subject. Let us say for GS1 I had a separate copy for society, for geography. Even within geography, a separate notes for geomorphology, for climatology, different I had notes. So I used to prepare my notes on A4 size sheets. I didn't necessarily have a copy for everything, only for a couple of subjects. I would say for internal security and all, I had a copy. I used to prepare it on A4 size sheets, so that if any new information comes up, or I have to add any new thing from the newspaper or current affairs, I can just add a paper to that, I can attach. So those notes I prepared in paper format only, because then it gets easier to revise also. But for my optional and for my interview, okay, so there are different reasons for that, because for optional, again, optional is very humongous for everybody. So what I did, I prepared my notes on Google Docs so that till the very end I am able to add new things and perspectives. But then I got them printed and spiral bound. So because I'm more comfortable in reading and underlining on paper format, so I made my notes in soft copy. I got them printed. And similar for interview, I would say, because I had less amount of time. My interview was in the first phase only. Because I had less amount of time, I couldn't have written down everything. Again, I made it in soft copy, got it printed, and learned from there only. Yeah.
What is to be taken into account before choosing optional subject?
Yeah, so for optional, a lot of factors again that vary from person to person. Some people are more comfortable with the subjects they had in their undergrad because they still remember the concepts and they think they would be able to do justice to it. For me, I would say so there's this factor of convergence with other papers also. There are optionals like PSIR that have a lot of convergence. The polity has a convergence, and some thinkers also, political thinkers like your Montesquieu and all, that appear in the PSIR, and they have a relevance in ethics also, some of their thoughts. Then IR, of course, it's a subject in itself in GS2, and that is in your optional also. So a lot of people take PSIR because of that reason. So even for sociology, like I mentioned, the kind of convergences that I found. So that was, I think, the biggest factor for taking sociology. And a lot of people take maths also, although it's a detailed optional. But the thing is, it's very objective in the sense, other like humanity subjects are quite subjective, and a lot of people take those subjects, so there's a lot of competition also. But in maths, like if you know that I've attempted this much, so you can predict the range of marks. I have a couple of friends who have cleared this year with maths optional, and they could predict that I would get in this range because the answer will be one only in every maths question. So it all depends on what's important to you, what you're comfortable with, your UG background or convergence with other papers, or if you want to learn something new. But you also have to take this thing into account, whether enough resources and teachers and guide are available for that particular optional. There are certain optionals, I would say, like English literature and all. People have cleared in top 100 also. There are people from English literature optional, but you don't get to see many faculties or resources for that. So always try to take an optional for which you can get easy guidance and resources.
Ma'am, how we can use our optional in GS papers and to what extent?
Sorry, in GSN?
In GS, to what extent?
How can we use optional in general studies?
Okay. Yeah, so as regards use of optional in general studies, it would largely depend on your optional also, but most of the humanities subjects that are there in optionals, you can use it somewhere or the other. For instance, let us say, I can talk about PSIR, sociology, anthropology, because I have somewhat idea of these, and philosophy also maybe. So you can use a philosopher's thought in your essay. Okay, so if you've given an argument in an essay that this is the reason why I think the particular virtue that is being asked is true, you give your argument, then you back it up by the philosopher's thought that Rawls has also talked about this. This is your essay part. And even in your ethics, okay, so like philosophy, then I had also used an anthropologist, Margaret Mead's study in my essay. Again, you can use a reference of that. History, if people have history optional, history is all encompassing, then it's there in your GS also. You can use historical references in your essay also. And views of historians and all, because in history optional you have to give the views of famous historians and all. So that you can use to back up your arguments in your essay. So largely in essay paper, I would say they are beneficial, and depending on the optional, they are converging with your GS also. Geography optional, direct convergence with GS1. History also, society has convergence with sociology. PSIR largely with GS2, political science, polity part and your IR part. So that is how you can use your optional now.
Okay, one last question, because ma'am has to leave.
Yes.
Yes.
Ma'am, as you said about, my question is regarding only one subject, environment. Ma'am, you had said about Sankar IA.
Yeah.
Ma'am, But like in recent days, the environment is like quite dynamic. And the Shankar IAS book is like quite comprehensive. Like, that's like thick.
Yeah.
So how to cover like the key aspects of environment for prelims?
Yeah, so while I was telling about the resources, I'd also mentioned this part that environment has both a mix of static and your dynamic questions. So that book largely takes care of your static part. Now, if you will remember that I think in 2022 paper, there was a question asked on the Miyawaki method of forestation, and that is given in your Shankar IAS book. So there will be, but only few questions can be tackled. But the book, it's a very good book. Okay, so especially with respect to the laws and all, the Wildlife Protection Act, the Environmental Protection Act, the FCA Forest Conservation Act, and various postulates of that, these acts come a lot in your prelims. So an environmental assessment also, EIA process, that is given in the book. So your static part of the environment, that will help you in mains also, and sometimes in prelims, that will be taken care of by that book. But like you said, majority of the questions in environment, they are dynamic in nature. So these again, you will have to, like I said, keep a tab on current affairs. When you're doing newspapers, they come from newspapers and monthly compilations, or sometimes they will come from a source which nobody is aware of. So nobody will be able to answer. Of course, you will not be knowing answer to all the 100 questions in prelims, right? So the dynamic part, your monthly compilations, like I told, that species that were in news, protected areas that were in news, or if any new species has been identified. So you have to take care of dynamic part from your current affairs revisions. Qualifying papers, they are very easy to tackle. I suppose, sir, Marathi will be the language paper, right? So language paper.
Language
Yeah.
compulsory. A lot of students opt for Marathi and Hindi also.
Okay, so Hindi, so just PYQs, you don't have to prepare, you don't even have to devote days for preparing for it. The 5-day gap that you will be getting after you're done with your GS paper and before your optional, that are enough. Just pick up maybe 2 year PYQ paper, try to attempt it in exam like format, and they are very easy. You will require a very small score for that, and even the English that is being asked, you will be done with your paper within 1 to 1.5 hours. Like I was done, and people around me, so because they haven't slept since past few days and GS papers, so people complete their sleep in the language papers. They get done with the paper in 1 hour, and then they take rest because it's so easy. The language qualifying papers are quite easy.
So very optional in recent years has seen unpredictable questions like government years or these are the basic theories.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So you pointed out a very important question. How to attempt those sociological questions that you don't find in your standard sources. Like Leela Dube's question was there in 2022, and in 2023 there was a question on David Morgan's view perspective on family, and this was the question that I left in my actual paper. So see, in optional, like I said, large part of your optional is predictable. Once you have analyzed the PYQs, they come from your syllabus heads only, but there will be some outliers, and that is there, I guess, in every optional. So it all depends on how much idea you have. Like this year there was a question on the dramaturgical perspective also, but that is mirroring to symbolic interactionism, so there is a topic in sociology. So if you have some idea, you can of course mold an answer around it, but when the question get too specific, like give David Morgan's view on family, I had heard the thinker's name for the first time. So how can I give an answer? I don't know if he belongs to critical school or the functionalist school or some neo-Marxist school he belongs to. So it's better I prescribe people to leave such questions. Because I think Shubham Kumar sir, he is a rank 1 in a couple of, like 2021 I guess. So he also said that he had left questions worth 40 in anthropology paper, and yet he went on to become Air 1. So if specific questions are being asked, then instead of beating around the bush, and you also come across as someone who is just written the answer for the sake of it, just for completing the pages or for filling all the pages, you come across as non-serious to the examiner also. I don't think it leaves a very good impression that you don't know the answer and then you take a guess to a specific question. So I left that 10 marker. But there will be only just, I think, 1 or maximum 2 such questions.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
what kind of strong reasons or mindset that play
Okay, this is the last question that we are taking for today. And just to add to that, Wardah, some years ago there was a topper, Miss Tina Davi, and she was AIR 1 in first attempt. And she was asked after her success by the media, did you feel like giving up in the course of this journey? And I was surprised. She said, "Sir, har teesre din mujhe aise lagta hai." So how do you deal with that? If you could just answer that, and then after that we are closing the questions.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't say that I used to have this feeling of giving up. I used to get bored of the routine sometimes, but never did I have this thought that let's just give it up. I'm not able to cope. The reason why your why of starting the journey, that why you started this journey has to be strong enough. See, a lot of people have it as their own dream. Lot of people appear for the exam to fulfill their parents' dream, or maybe they got inspired from a role model. So you have to remind yourself why you started this journey. And like I said, this one small activity that I used to do once I got bored, and if I'm not feeling like studying in a stretch of 4 to 5 days, I used to attempt a mock, and especially of a subject I'm not very comfortable with. Just geography ka sectional test laga liya, and I used to score poorly in that, 40s to 50s. So that really humbled me down, that you need to get back to studies. You are still not done with your syllabus and all. So that negative motivation can also help you in this way, or maybe just write down an essay, because your first essay will be your worst one. So when you will get that evaluated maybe from a faculty, and they will give a critical review for that you are not qualified for this, or this essay will fetch you a double-digit marks only. So that can help you bounce back. Giving up, I would say just remind yourself why you started, and it was your dream. So giving up, I don't think it's an option.
Thank you, Wardah.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, I'm sure you all will agree with that. To wrap up the session, I would now request Tukaram Jadhav sir to conclude today's session and share the key takeaways for all viewers. Sir, I request you to please.
Good afternoon. Last 10 minutes of this kind of a marathon. I'll say a few words in English and then turn to Marathi. Okay. Okay, should I? Okay, I'll do that. Wardah's this exercise of sharing her experience of her journey is reflective of both a forest view as well as tree view. It begins with the virtue of clarity, which started off with why to turn to civil services. Okay, two, if in case this happens, in what year am I going to turn to some other field? On one hand. On the other hand, she was also quite clear about the format of all the 3 stages of the examination. Okay, and she elaborated upon each and every peculiar aspect of whether it is prelims, whether it is mains, or the personality test. Okay, I think that is the beauty of the exercise which she has presented before all of us. Honesty, again, which is very, very important, and self-evaluation is something which is critical part of this journey and preparation for the civil services examination. And she was humble in a sense throughout her journey. Okay, even if she could not get through the prelims for the first time, immediately after the same, she assessed her effort and then decided to focus on the mains examination. I think that has paid a lot. Okay, so she wrote just one mains, and the rest is before you. That is in front of all of us. Okay, no need to comment on that. This is the second thing. Now the third thing, I would not use the word smart because that is a bad word, but she was very, very wise in every sense of the term. Okay, right from knowing the nitty-gritties of each and every phase and what all is supposed to put into in the form of the effort. Okay, and if in case she was faced with any kind of difficulty, how to deal with the difficulty and overcome with the difficulty. Okay, so this is, I think, the third biggest takeaway as far as her experience is concerned. Now let me turn to the Marathi. ही 3 दिवसाची आपली व्याख्यानमाला होती. त्यात पहिलं प्रियांका, दुसरं रम्या आणि तिसरी वर्धा. आणि मला असं वाटतं की तुम्ही तुमच्यापैकी जवळपास 80 to 90% विद्यार्थी 2024चा अटेम्प्ट देत आहेत. आणि या तीनही मुलींनी, हे मुलांसाठी एका अर्थाने चॅलेंज आहे, मी पहिल्या दिवशी म्हटलं होतं. सो या तीनही मुलींनी, टॉपर्सनी त्यांचा जो काही सगळा एक्सपिरियन्स शेअर केलेला आहे. मला आता नाही असं वाटत की तुम्हाला याच्या पुढं कुठलाही व्हिडिओ बघायची गरज आहे. म्हणजे सो या 24च्या अटेम्प्टसाठी, आणि फक्त प्रिलिम्ससाठीच नाही तर प्रिलिम्स, त्याच्यानंतर मेन्स, आणि अर्थातच शेवटची जी फेज आहे आपली मुलाखतीची. म्हणजे त्यामुळं आपल्या संस्थेच्या वतीनं, सर्वांच्या वतीनं मला असं वाटतं की ही अत्यंत महत्त्वाची संधी आहे की आपण त्या तिघींचे आभार मानले पाहिजेत. आणि एक गोष्ट मी विसरलो खरं तर सुरुवातीलाच करायचं मी ठरवलं होतं. वन्स अगेन अ व्हेरी बिग राऊंड ऑफ अपलॉड फॉर वर्धा. त्यामुळे मी जे म्हणत होतो तिने एक शब्दप्रयोग वापरलेला आहे, म्हणजे फॉडर. तर फॉडर भरपूर आपल्याला मिळालेलं आहे. त्यामुळे तुम्हाला दुसऱ्या आता कुठल्या सोर्सकडे बघण्याची गरज नाही. म्हणजे आता याच्या व्यतिरिक्त आता ही एक संधी असते, कारण यावर्षी आम्ही कार्यक्रमाचा फॉर्मॅट बदलला. तुम्हाला सगळ्यांना कल्पना असेल की पूर्वी आपण एकच कार्यक्रम करायचो, पण त्यात खूप अडचणी असायच्या म्हणजे, आणि त्यात विद्यार्थ्यांचं नुकसान जास्त व्हायचं. म्हणून आम्ही यावेळेला असं ठरवलं की आपण फेजेसमध्ये टॉपरचा हा एक्सपिरियन्स शेअरिंगचा अनुभव आहे तो आपण ऑर्गनाईज करूयात. आणि त्यातलं पहिलं पुष्प, मराठीमध्ये अगदी जर बोलायचं झालं तर हे पहिलं पुष्प, ज्याच्यामध्ये 3 मुलींनी आपले अनुभव सादर केलेले आहेत. याच्यात म्हणजे मला 2 म्हणजे शिवाजी काळे सर, म्हणजे ज्यांच्या करंट डिकोडेड बॅचला रम्या होती, आणि 3 प्रिलिम्स फेल झाल्यानंतर जेव्हा ती त्यांना अप्रोच झाली त्या स्टेजला त्यांचं मार्गदर्शन हे खूपच महत्त्वाचं ठरलेलं आहे. ओके, म्हणजे आपणच आपलं कौतुक करायचं नसतं, पण इट इज माय रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू अप्रिशिएट हिज एफर्ट, अँड सो इज द केस ऑफ जव्हाद सर. ओके, जसं वर्धानी स्वतः ते सांगितलेलं आहे की एसेच्या बाबतीमध्ये, ही इज बीन डुईंग दिस सिन्स सो मेनी इयर्स. म्हणजे अनेक विद्यार्थ्यांना एसेच्या बाबतीमध्ये गायडन्स करणं, राईट फ्रॉम द लँग्वेज आर्टिक्युलेशन आस्पेक्ट टू द कंटेंट, द प्रेझेंटेशन, द ऑर्गनायझेशन, सो ऑन अँड सो फोर्थ. म्हणजे ओके, सो ही एक आमच्यासाठी देखील संस्था आणि फॅकल्टी म्हणून महत्त्वाची गोष्ट असते, म्हणजे की आपण जे काय करतोय त्याचा काही ना काहीतरी कुठल्या ना कुठल्या स्टेजला तरी उपयोग होतोय. म्हणजे आम्ही कामी येतोय त्यांच्या. हा एक आमच्यासाठी एक फुलफिलमेंटची गोष्ट असते, जी गोष्ट आम्हाला केवळ येणाऱ्या अनेक वर्षासाठी काम करायला मोटिवेट करत असते. म्हणजे सो आता मी जास्त वेळ घेत नाही, कारण तुमचा प्रत्येक मिनिट महत्त्वाचा आहे. सो या शब्दांबरोबर मी थांबतो. धन्यवाद. विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट. थँक्यू.